coming out. It's good to be back. It's not so sunny this time, but it's a lot better than Pennsylvania. It's a lot better than New York and Delaware and Jersey. And we was in Kansas City this past Sunday, and it was definitely cold there. It tried to snow on us, but the people still came out and packed it out as always, just like today. I want to thank you all for coming out. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology, certified school psychologist and principal. I'm also a political scientist. I'm a Garveyite. I'm founder of Team Pan-African, the international movement for the independence and protection of African people, as well as the National Independent Black Parents Association. My mission is to build a school, a residential school, an independent school for African children, starting with the boys and then extending it to the girls. The Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy, because we need that. I'm tired of mothers having to catch the hell that goes along with having your son in the Fort Lauderdale schools. I'm getting tired of you having to fight against special ed, and I'm tired of you having to fight against ADHD, and I'm tired of you having to fight against these also dangerous psychiatric medications that you're telling you don't have the side effects that you sooner or later find out that they do have. Brothers and sisters, this year represents our 150th year of our sojourn since the conclusion of the Civil War. This December will be 150 years since the 13th Amendment. 150 years since many of our ancestors took off the chains, the physical chains of slavery. But it seems that although we took off the physical chains of slavery, we may have picked up the mental chains of slavery, and that we've kept them for the past 150 years. Some people would argue that we have a lot to be thankful for. Some people would argue that we have come a long way. I don't know if I can necessarily agree with that, because my definition of progress is not based on integration. My definition of progress has nothing to do with whether or not the president has a black father. My definition of progress has nothing to do with whether or not we got black people playing in the NFL or the NBA. It has nothing to do with Tyler Perry having his own movie studio. It has nothing to do with Empire and Scandal. It has nothing to do with basketball wives and reality shows. That's not my definition of freedom. My definition of freedom is to the extent that a people can secure the destiny of future generations after they are gone. It relates to political and economic independence. Political and economic independence. That's my definition of freedom, brothers and sisters. Right now, there's a little trap going on in the black community that's being played against the black community by the American social order and, of course, the United States government itself, and I refer to it as the multicultural trap. In Fort Lauderdale, I want y'all to be very careful about making sure you don't fall for the multicultural trap. The multicultural trap says that black people should stop identifying as black people. The multicultural trap says that instead of being black, we should identify as people of color. Instead of being black, we should identify as minority. Instead of being black, we should just identify as America's smaller racial groups. We can't do that, because to identify as people of color and to identify as minority is to give the illusion that other groups of people have caught the same hell that we have caught in American history. To identify as a person of color and not stick out as a black person is to risk losing the peculiar uniqueness that our history in America has. To make a long story short, convincing you to adopt the multicultural agenda will help the United States remove the black agenda altogether. We have to recognize that there is a war against the image of black people. And this war is deliberate. And this war is a pretext to the extermination of black folks in the United States of America. Whenever you prepare, where's that music coming from? What's going on with the music? That's not me. How the hell y'all gonna play Nicki Minaj at a Dr. Umar lecture? But anyway, that war is designed to exterminate the image of black people, to justify the extermination of black people themselves. If you want to wonder If you wonder why we have an empire, why we have scandal on television, why we have basketball wives in the reality shows, the purpose of these shows is to paint an image that black people are useless to everyone, especially themselves. And we would be doing black folk a favor if we began to systematically exterminate them. So we have to look at how we as a people actually play into the stereotypes that are being used to justify our over-incarceration. See, it would be hard to over-incarcerate a people if they did not project themselves as criminals. It would be hard to over-incarcerate a people if they did not project themselves into the roles that the American social order wants them to be in. In other words, brothers and sisters, we're unique as a people because we're the only group in American history that actually helped kill their own image. We helped kill it on television. We helped kill it on the radio. We helped kill it on the CD, the DVD, the magazine, the newspaper. We're responsible for our own degradation of image. And that's why you got to turn off Empire. When Color Purple came out, a lot of us were flabbergasted at Color Purple. When Waiting to Exhale came out, a lot of us were flabbergasted at Waiting to Exhale. We said, how could they make a movie that pokes so much fun at the black family or the black man or the black woman? Fast forward 30 years later, and then we get our Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. Now, when we got Boys in the Hood, it was understandable. John Singleton chronicled the black-on-black crime issue like it had never been chronicled. But then we came with Menace to Society. And then we came with Dead Presidents. And we went from chronicling our oppression to glamorizing our oppression. And that's the issue. When the hip-hop, black conscious rap of the 80s and 90s took over, they chronicled the issues in the community. Self-destruction, we're all in the same game. Public Enemy, they chronicled it. But then along came NWA and other groups that glamorized it. And we have to understand the difference between chronicling something and glamorizing something. For example, when I was in Kansas City, a sister stood up and she challenged me. She was a member of the liberated community. And she said, Dr. Umar, we take an issue with you because you don't feel the black struggle should be connected to the liberation struggle. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, of course not. And she said, well, can you explain it? I said, sure. I said, number one, black people are fighting for the right to breathe, not for the right to engage in a behavior. Don't confuse the two. See, we got to understand everybody wants us to line up with them to use our numerical and political strength to help push their agenda. Don't do that. Black women did it back in the 1900s with the white women's lib movement. The white women said, listen, we need some support from black women, not because we like them, not because we care about them, but their numerical strength can give leverage to our movement. So black women started joining the feminist movement, backing up the white woman's struggle, confusing her issue with hers. The black woman's issue with the black man is of a different nature than the white woman's issue with the white man. I understood why the white woman fought against the white male, sisters. She fought against the white male because he controlled whether she went to work. She fought against the white male because he controlled whether she could go to college. She fought against the white male because he made her stay home, raise the children, and didn't let her get out the house. He told her she could only wear skirts and long dresses, that she couldn't put on pants. So I understood her fight because the white man had control of the society that the white woman wanted to freely participate in. But black woman, when you got into the white woman's lib struggle, and some of you are still in that white feminist movement today, you're fighting against something that don't exist. Why? Because the black man, sister, if we can be honest, have we ever been able to keep you in the house when you wanted to get out? Have we ever controlled how you dress? And has a black man ever kept a black black woman from getting a job. So how could you remotely compare your issue with us as she compares her issue with him? I didn't say the black woman ain't got issues with the black man. I know we got sexism in the black community, and we got sexism in the black conscious community. We got a situation where in most organizations, let's be real, brothers, we only want the women there for 3 things: take notes, cook food, and bake cookies. And you know what kind of cookie we talking about. You understand? And I know the sister is tired of occupying that subservient role. And black woman, you got a right to fight against the oppression that you're facing from brothers. But don't confuse that oppression with the oppression that the white woman is fighting against. They're not the same thing. If you need to have a conversation with your brothers, nothing wrong with that, sisters. There's nothing wrong with calling a meeting, a conference, a seminar, a convention to address sexism in the black revolutionary community. I'll be there myself to support you. But don't you ever go outside the community to the enemy's wife and try to get leverage from her to beat down a black man who's already been beat the hell down long enough. Same thing I say to our liberated brothers and sisters. I say, if you got an issue with those of us who don't agree with that lifestyle, we can talk about it. We can sit down respectfully and have a dialogue. We can discuss it. I ain't got no problem discussing what I don't agree with. But don't you go outside the community and go get the oppressor and bring him into our house and try to get him to force us to accept something we've never been into as a people. Handle it in-house. Handle it in-house. Brothers and sisters, the United States government is a very, very manipulative instrument. If we go back to Ferguson, Missouri, it was interesting in Ferguson because when the Ferguson situation popped off, I was getting phone calls and radio requests and here and there, and can you come do a TV interview? People wanted to ask me what I thought about the Ferguson riot, the Ferguson rebellion, the Ferguson protest. They said, you have to say that burning down your own community is without question a very degenerate way to respond to the Michael Brown murder. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Johnson? And I said, hell no. Because first of all, what they burned down was non-African businesses that had been in Ferguson for over 50 years and robbing my people blind for the last 50 years, and they put $1 back in Ferguson, Missouri. So I'm glad they burned it, torched it, and did everything else. Why, brothers and sisters? Not for the sake of violence, but I know how the world works, and the only thing that gets attention on television is violence. So if our brothers and sisters in Ferguson would have picked up some candles and walked down the street singing, "We shall overcome," do you think CNN would have been in Ferguson?
Nope.
Do you think Headline News would have been in Ferguson? Do you think Fox would have been in Ferguson? Most importantly, do you think the United Nations Office of Human Rights would have been forced to step in and make America deal with its white male police brutality issue against black males if they didn't burn the city down? Stop letting people make you feel bad for how we react to oppression. Violence is the voice of oppression. Violence is the tongue of oppression. Whenever a people cannot get legal redress through acceptable means, whenever a people don't have a protocol or a process that they can follow to seek retributive justice, they take it into their own hands. America knows that better than anyone else. The Boston Tea Party. America knows that better than anyone else. The Independence Revolution. How dare you fight against oppression with violence, but tell us we can't? How dare you kill a black man in cold blood violently and then tell me I have to react non-violently? And then they say, okay, well, we got another question. Wouldn't you say that them taking advantage of the riot, your people, going into the stores, your people, going into the supermarket, your people, going into the mom and pop shops and taking food and high definition televisions and VCRs and radios, wasn't that exploitative in nature, did that have anything to do with expressing your pain at the murder of Michael Brown? Wasn't it wrong for them to steal? I said, first of all, it wasn't stealing, and it wasn't looting. Because as I said, those businesses have been robbing black folks blind for decades. So as far as I'm concerned, them taking those items was nothing but community reparations. And if I would have been there, I would have took some shit too. Yes! Dr. Umar, 6 degrees, pass me that HD TV. Nobody gonna feel bad about speaking up against our pain. I admit that sometimes the way we respond ain't the most progressive, but I'm not going to chide black folk for responding if you really understand what we've been through. But America says we're moving into a post-racial age where we don't even want to talk about slavery no more. So now the State Department of Education in Texas says they're going to change the way they teach slavery. And several other departments of education have decided, if you've been paying attention, that they're taking slavery as an item out of the history and social studies books altogether. They say they don't even need to be in there no more. Do you know why they're doing this? Because of you. See, black people are the ones who painted this illusion of inclusion. When Obama got elected, you opened your mouth and said, maybe America is not as bad as we thought. See, we bought into the strategy. It was black folk who said, do we still need HBCUs? It was black folk who said, maybe American justice is finally colorblind. But what did I predict back in 2008? I said it at a lecture at the African American Museum. It's on YouTube. And I said that when Obama is done being president, he will have allowed white folk to roll back justice on black folk so far that when the next president comes in, we might think we still living in Reconstruction. Brothers and sisters, for those of you who are supporters of the president, and I'm not here to condemn him, but we got to be honest, how do you go out of your way to give a welfare check to Wall Street? How do you go out of your way to fight for the LBGT community? How do you go out of your way to fight for the Latino and the illegal immigrant? And how do you fight for white women to get equal pay, the Equal Pay Act, to give white women equal pay with white males? I can respect that. But how you got time to fight for a woman who already got a job and already got a paycheck to get more money when half the black men in South Florida can't even find a job? How do you find time to do that, Obama? That's my problem. But I know 16 months from now, when he's no longer in the White House, we want to treat him like he's some kind of hero. There's going to be celebrations for Obama, but nobody's going to ask the question, what for? Nobody's going to ask the question, what for? And again, brothers and sisters, I hope that we've learned our lesson, that a black face in a high place don't mean nothing. You should have already knew this, because we've already had black faces in high places. And if you consider a black face in a high place as a form of progress, then your whole conceptualization of progress is based on integration. To what extent does my oppressor allow me to participate in my oppression? We're not going to stop oppressing you. We just want to do it in a black face. We're not going to stop arresting you. We're just going to do it in a blackface. And that's the point I need y'all to see. You're not fighting to end oppression. You're fighting to change the color of the hand that oppresses you. That's the mistake of black folk. That's why we got to change our paradigm going forward so we don't repeat the same mistakes we've repeated for the past 150 years. 150 years henceforth. What is Frederick Douglass saying from the grave right now about black folks? What is Harriet Tubman saying from the grave? What is Malcolm and King saying from the grave about black folks? Are they celebrating this 150 years? Are they celebrating the fact that when we got out of slavery, we only own 1/2 of 1% of all the wealth in America? And here we are 150 years later, even with basketball players and rappers and actors and singers and moguls, we still stuck at 0.5%. You free? Where your supermarkets at? You free, where your schools. You free, where your factories. You free, where your warehouses. You free, where your distribution network. You free, where your ships and your airplanes at, since you so damn free. Only thing you free to do is get money from work and give it back to the people who gave it to you. Some people say, why don't you go and ask Oprah Winfrey for that $2 million? Why don't you go write a letter to LeBron for the $2 million for the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy? Why don't you call up Puff Daddy? Go ahead and meet in that daddy's house. See if you can get some money. Well, brothers and sisters, the truth of the matter is they're not going to give me that money. Because they realize that if they give me that money, white folks will indict them as being conscious of their blackness. Which is something that well-placed black folks are not allowed to recognize. They're not allowed to recognize your situation. And so if they give me that money, they will validate the fact that there is an issue in this country. And nothing will accept white folks more than to see a black rich person being conscious about his people's condition. So they're not going to give me that check. Could they, if they really want to? Sure, they can give me a briefcase of money. Ain't nobody got to know about it. But the problem with the rich Negro is they like to be patted on the back, stroked, and seen for everything good they do. And because they cannot take a photo op with me on TV because what I represent would be considered too controversial for their image, they would rather not give me anything if they can't be patted on the back for it. But brothers and sisters, we don't need Oprah's money. We don't need their money. What we need is for you to stop wasting yours. We don't need LeBron's money. What we need is for you to be more disciplined with the way you handle yours. We don't need Bob Johnson's and Jay-Z's money. We need you to be a little bit more circumspect with how you give away yours. Fort Lauderdale, 2 months ago, you celebrated Christmas, exactly 8 weeks ago. And you went out and you spent money on junk and garbage. Most of the stuff you bought, you don't use, and your children don't use. If we were really serious about helping Dr. Umar with this school, y'all would have sacrificed your white Jesus money. And you would have gave it to me so I could give your son a better education. So don't talk to me about no Oprah. Don't talk to me about none of them. Talk to me about you. Don't pass the buck. Their children are going to be all right. It's your children that's catching the hell. And if you don't care enough about what's happening to them to give some of that money over to me instead of to the Korean, the Arab, the East Indian, and the Chinaman, then why the hell should Oprah? If you don't care, why should Oprah care? That's right. $250,000 is what we've raised so far. And I want to thank all of you who helped me to raise it. A lot of checks came from Florida, and they still come in every day from Florida throughout the South, throughout the country. And I'm very grateful because every time I go to the post office, there's more and more donation checks. But I'm upset, not at the people who donated, but at the ones who didn't. Because even though we got $250,000, it took us 9 months to get there. When Darren Wilson shot Michael Brown, the white folks rallied and gave that killer $300,000 in 3 weeks. And here's Dr. Umar 9 months later, and I'm still choking on 250. Can I have a donation? So what we gonna do is, if I don't get to that $2 million by the fall, September, I'm going to do what a lot of people feel I should do anyway as a first strategy and not as a second strategy. And that is take your $250,000 to Africa and build a school over there. Because 250,000 US in African currency puts me at the 2 million I need. So if you want the school to stay here, I suggest you get a little bit more liberal with your dollars. Because if I don't get that money, I got to take it to Africa, and I don't want to hear no excuses for why I did it, because you did not back me. See, there's a lot of people who do this conscious thing. There's a lot of people who talk black. There's a lot of people who travel and run their damn mouth. But I'm trying to make a damn difference. So you're obligated to stand up and stand behind me. Or are you comfortable with your oppression? You rather fight the white teacher to give your child a better education than you giving them one yourself. I don't want to fight against racist education for the rest of my life. We done romanticized fighting with white folks. We done romanticized the black struggle. How about it's time to win for a change? I don't want to struggle no damn more. I want a victory. The white man disappeared. Some of us wouldn't know what to do with ourselves because our whole life is based on fighting him. In fact, if he disappeared from Fort Lauderdale today, most of us would start fighting each other tomorrow. See, we can talk about the slave master on the outside. We can talk about oppression in European skin. But what about the white man who lives inside of you? What about the white female that lives inside of every sister? And the white male that lives inside of every brother? White man can leave Florida tonight. You would go back and get him. You know why? Because black people don't respect black leadership. They don't respect black authority. How many of you were the supervisors on your job and you was responsible for managing black folks? And the black folks, because they hated the fact they had to answer to somebody who looked like them, went out their way to sabotage your management skills. Went out their way to report you to the boss, talked about you with white co-workers, something you should never do. A black person hates nothing more than to have to answer to another black person. That's why we fight all day. And I'm so tired of the ideological tugs of war that we have to get over, brothers and sisters. If you are more, I can respect that. I ain't got no problem with it. You Hebrew Israelite, I can respect that. I ain't got no problem with it. You Nation of Islam, I ain't got no problem with that. Rasta, Nawapi, and God and earth, don't make a difference to me what you believe in. I'm going to respect it because that's the way you perceive your world and you have a right to it. But we got people who want to dictate how people pray. We got people who want to dictate what we call God's name by. We got people who want to dictate people's political philosophy. Who the hell are you? What makes you so great that you can go and tell the rest of the community how they should pray, how they should call on God? Listen, supreme consciousness is beyond definition. So no matter what name you use, none of them are sufficient. I don't care if it's God. I don't care if it's Yahweh. I don't care if it's Olodumare. I don't care if it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jah, no one name can capture supreme consciousness. How do you define something that is beyond your definitions? But we fighting over the name of God like you used to live back there or something. You born in 1985 trying to tell me how old the name of your God is. You're going off somebody else's book who went off somebody else's book. At the end of the day, you can't prove it true or false. It's your reality, and we should respect it. We don't suffer because of what we believe in. We suffer because of what we are, not who we pray to. Give people that freedom to name. Naming your creator is a personal thing. Those of us who got siblings, and I got 10 of them, you know we all got our own name for mom and dad. You might call grandma this, and they might call grandma that. You might call daddy this, and your little sister calls daddy that. You might call mama big mama, your little brother might call him mama, or whatever the situation has more than one name, because none is sufficient. Then maybe God's first people have more than one name too. So we can stop fighting over what to call each other as well. If you want to be a Hebrew, that's great. I refer to myself as African. That's what resonates with me. You choose not to. I respect that. We don't have to agree on everything in order to work together. We just got to agree on certain things. But I figured out why people like to fight. I figured out why we like to intellectually masturbate issues that are irrelevant to black progress. And you know why that is? The person who don't want to do no damn work is the quickest one to start a fight. Because in starting a fight, we never get around to the assignments and the responsibilities that need to be given out. The best way to keep myself from doing anything at all is to poke fun and insult and criticize everything you're doing. Because if I don't destroy it, sooner or later I'm going to have to do some work. And I'm not interested in working. I just want to tell other people how to do it right. That's the problem with the arrogant, conscious, self-taught scholar. I'm not doing the work, but I'll give out the orders. Well, if everybody giving out orders and nobody working, how do we move? We don't. Read Harold Cruz's book, Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. He talks about how the average college-educated black person has never really been at the forefront of struggle. We got a lot of people writing fancy books and stuff, but what are you doing? A book ain't action, it's information. And information ain't going to save black folk. And some of y'all have become nothing but information addicts. Just like people strung out on crack, you strung out on information. Did you see the latest DVD? Did you read that book? Did you watch this website? Check out this YouTube? You a damn information junkie! You ain't putting no jobs in the community. You ain't building no schools. You ain't reducing no prison rate. You're just giving out facts and dates and times and opinions. That's not going to save us black people. That is, our ancestors did not fight and die just so you could get smart. We so smart, but we don't own nothing. So smart, we don't even educate our own children. And then we want to go to the school system and force white folks to teach black history and call it a victory. I respect my elders, but up in Philadelphia, when Dr. Asante, who I respect, and Dr. Ed Robinson, who's now an ancestor, rest in peace. But when they got the school district of Philadelphia to accept that black history curriculum that they wrote, which was magnificent. But I said, this is no victory, this is a loss. And people say, why do you say that? It was at a in Cobra conference at Temple University. They said, Dr. Umar, why do you say that? How dare you ridicule what the scholars have done? Y'all missing the point. Who, other than black folk, have you ever seen in American history go to white folk and ask them to teach my kids who they are? How is that a victory? You went to your oppressor and said, tell my children where they come from. That ain't no victory. You got a church on every other corner. You got a community center on every 5 corners. If we need to teach African history, why can't we do it ourselves? I know why. I know why. I know why. Because the average Afrocentric scholar ain't going to do a damn thing for black children unless somebody pay them for it. That's why. Can we be honest? Yeah. It's called black consciousness for capitalism. That's what it's called. See, the new hustle in America is black consciousness. Oh yes, the Koreans jumped in on it. Remember when sisters started locking their hair back in the late 80s and 90s when the locks came mainstream? The Koreans popped up with African pride hair products. Y'all sisters remember that, right? And everybody went and said, get the African pride. We assumed it was black owned because they had kente cloth on the can. And we found out that these was Koreans who was bold enough to put an Afrocentric label on a Korean product. That's right. Even with the DVD movement, white folks is getting into the DVD movement. Have you seen my Alpha 21? Did you know the producer of my Alpha 21 is a white male? Yeah, because they called me up and wanted me to do a post-traumatic slavery disorder documentary. I was going to be, the purveyor of the information and the narrator, in many respects the producer and the director, but it would have been a white man's product. How can I do a post-traumatic slavery disorder documentary with a white producer? To do that means I got post-traumatic slavery disorder. For those of you who have sons between the age of 11 and 17, I'm going to be hosting the first annual Dr. Umar Historically Black College Tour and Pan-African Boot Camp. It's going to be 2 tours. The first one is going to be June 10th through the 17th. June 10th through the 17th. The second one will be July 1st through July 8th. 1 week apiece, 2 trips. Originally, I was going to do 5 of them, but the price was too high. It was about $1,000, and I said, I can't charge parents that amount of money. So we're trying to get the price even cheaper. And if any of you here know of someone who either has their own black-owned tour bus company or has a connect to a hotel chain where we can get the discount rates, please let me know, because I'm trying to get the cheapest price, period. Now, if you know somebody who got their own bus, make sure the bus is insured. Make sure it's their damn bus. Make sure it's a seat in every seat. And make sure the bus don't smell like weed. But anyway, brothers and sisters, if you know somebody who meet those conditions, please text me their information so I can give them a call. I don't know where the 2 departure cities are going to be. Okay? So it's going to be your responsibility to fly or drive your son to the departure city. If you got to fly him in, you're going to send me the flight information. I'm going to pick him up from the airport, take him on a tour, get him back to the airport. Okay? During the day, we're going to take him to historically black colleges. During the nighttime, there's going to be seminars in the hotel conference room with me. We're going to talk to him about how to deal with police when you get stopped. We're going to talk to him about why you need to respect and love and honor and protect the black woman. We're going to talk to him about how to resolve conflicts without violence, because it can cost you your life. We're going to talk to him about why you need to do good in school, whether you like it or not. We're going to talk to him about preparing for college and trade school or businessmanship. We're going to talk to him about anger and depression as a young black male and what to do with all that pain and hurt that is trapped up inside of you. Because in case y'all don't know, black males have the fastest growing suicide rate in the country. Our brothers are killing themselves like crazy. Once a month, once every other month, I'm sure they get an email from somebody or a text that a man that they know just took their own life. And guess what? Our sons are killing themselves at younger and younger ages. We got kindergarten and first grade suicide now. So I'm asking all of you in here that whenever a child tells you that they're going to do something to themselves, or if they threaten to do it to someone else, don't try to play psychologist. Take him to the crisis center. And if your county don't have a mental health crisis center, you take them to the closest emergency room, and there's a psychiatrist who's on call, whose job is to come in and evaluate that boy or girl, man or woman, and determine if they need to be hospitalized or if they can be sent back home. But don't try to play therapist. Too often, kids are taking their lives and people are spending the rest of their life guilty because you tried to play therapist and you concluded that he was only playing. And then we find out later, he was not. He was not. So let's get very, very serious about threats. And if the child is young, if they draw a picture of a suicide, if they draw a picture of a gun, if they bring you a painting with blood dripping from the neck with chains and saws, that's just as good as a verbal confession. And you need to act on that. People said, why do you want to keep our kids overnight at the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy? Why can't they come home with us, Dr. Umar? I don't want my son staying with you. Well, what is he doing in your house? He don't even listen to you. He come in when he want, go to school when he want, talk to you how he want, and you want me to leave him with you. See, let me explain something. The United States government outlawed the importation of slaves in 1808. You couldn't bring no more slaves into America after 1808. So how did they get slaves after 1808, enslaved Africans, our ancestors, from 1808 to 1865? That's a long time without a slave ship coming in, right? So the slave masters then created what we call breeding farms. That's when you get 12 black women and stick them in a house, and you get one black man called a buck, the biggest, most athletic one you could find, and his job was to keep every woman in that house impregnated as soon as they were ready. This is the origin of the bitch and the nigger. This is what they did. This is what they did. Why am I bringing this up? Breeding farms. I'm bringing up breeding farms because some of your houses are breeding farms. You're giving birth to children that you ain't raising right. You ain't giving them no discipline. You ain't giving them no mission in life. You ain't doing nothing, brother or sister, mommy or daddy, but breeding a damn slave for the jail cell. Is your house a home, or is it a breeding farm for prisoners? If I walk in there, I can tell. Within 2 minutes. First thing I walk into a house, I look for a bookshelf. Then I count the number of TVs in it. Then I look for the dictionary. I look for the thesaurus. I look for a set of encyclopedia. And if I don't see a dictionary, a thesaurus, and a set of encyclopedia, I know this is a damn breeding farm. Because there ain't no learning going on in here. And let me just demystify this. When they talk about the black-white test gap, the white kids doing better than the black kids on the standardized test, what they're talking about, but they don't want to tell you because they want you to think whites are smarter, they're talking about nothing more than the fact that the white child's working vocabulary is more developed than the black child's. See, when your child take the Florida State assessment, he don't understand the words in the question. So how can you answer it? This is it. I give IQ tests for a living. That test don't tell me how smart your child is. The test is a scam. On the IQ test, you got 4 scales. Working memory, processing speed, nonverbal reasoning. Working memory, processing speed, nonverbal reasoning. Well, guess what? Working memory, processing speed, and nonverbal reasoning are universal scales. That means whether you're black, white, rich, poor, all kids do well on those. But then there's another scale. They don't like to demystify it. And it's called the verbal comprehension scale. This is what accounts for the racism. This is why the black child's IQ score is 15 points lower than the white kids. And what is verbal comprehension intelligence? It's not even intelligence. You know what it is? It's your child's ability to understand the words, definitions, concepts, and ideas that white people use. It ain't got nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, it's totally dependent on previous learning. Which means what? If it's totally dependent on previous learning, it shouldn't be in the IQ test at all. It should be in the achievement test. So why isn't the verbal scale on the achievement test instead of the IQ test? Because if they took it out the IQ test, it takes away the racial bias and white privilege within the IQ test. If you stop asking black children the definitions that white people use, you level the playing field. And you set up a situation in South Florida where you might see black children with higher IQ scores than white children. And that's a problem. You know why? Because if black kids have a higher overall IQ score than the white children, how do you explain only one black working on a law degree at Florida State? How do you explain only 2 blacks working on a law degree at the University of Tallahassee? If you take out the bias, you can no longer justify while white people dominate in all the major professions. I need your parents to understand this. The whole testing game is about making it look like your child couldn't make it when they could the whole time. Let's go another way. What is the relationship between your IQ score and your child's ability to finish school? What is the relationship between your SAT score and your child's ability to do well in college? What is the relationship between your LSAT score and your ability to finish law school? What is the relationship between your MCAT score and your ability to finish medical school? Guess what, brothers and sisters? The relationship between the test score, and don't believe me, go to the library tomorrow and do your own research. The relationship between any test score they give in America and its ability to predict your performance is almost a perfect 0. No correlation. If you don't believe me, do the research. So are you telling me that IQ test doesn't say how well my child will do? No, it don't. Are you telling me my LSAT score doesn't tell them how well I do in law school? No, it don't. So why are they giving it to us then, Dr. Johnson? Because the test score. The test score in America is the new Jim Crow sign. 60 years ago, there would be a big sign that said, colors only, whites only. They traded in the sign for a test score. Instead of saying colored only, 1,600 only. Instead of saying white only, you need a 2,400. The score does the same thing Jim Crow signs did. But because they're using a number, it looks scientific. Nobody told you that the man who invented the SAT score, Carl Brigham, was a white racist eugenicist who advocated the extermination of black folks. And let us be clear, what they doing to black folk is about getting rid of us. Oppression is over. This is extermination. Oppression is over. This is extermination. Why do you think they brought Ebola over here and all this? We sitting in the airport in North Africa waiting to fly back. We were in Morocco, Casablanca, and it flashed on the news and they told us we had a delay because they wasn't sure if they was going to let us fly because there was an Ebola attack in West Africa. Then they finally let us go home, and some of us got questioned, and some of the sisters was afraid they might be told they can't come home, get their hair done. But we came. But the reason Ebola is in America is because AIDS is working, but not fast enough. The reason Ebola is in America is because black on black crime is working, but not fast enough. Abortion kills more black people than gun violence. We've aborted over 8 million black children since the 1970s. Nobody talks about that. We'll talk about the brother on the corner shooting himself, but we don't talk about the murder of infants before they breathe. We're not talking about judging nobody now. Everybody got their own history. It ain't about judging. It's about looking at what's in the best interest of the community. Abortion clinics were started for black people. Margaret Sanger, do you know the original name of Planned Parenthood? It was called the Negro Project. Do your research. The original name of Planned Parenthood was the Negro Project, to get rid of unwanted black babies. Yes. And now we have Planned Parenthood International that President Obama is funding, that's over in Africa, paying black women $500 to get a full hysterectomy. Y'all didn't hear what happened in Israel? What was it, last month? The Israeli government accidentally gave African women over there an immunization that accidentally had a chemical in it, that accidentally made all the black women who was given the shot sterile. And we got elders running to Walgreens for flu shots. Are y'all crazy or something? Why would a people trying to get rid of you help you live longer? You don't take no flu shot, and you don't give it to your child. And stop immunizing our babies, giving them this damn autism. You need to read Curtis Koss' book, Vaccinations is Dangerous. I met the brother. You need to read Scott Whitaker's book, Medicine, spelled S-I-N. Parents, they cannot make you immunize your child. Immunization is a choice. The only two states that force it is Mississippi and West Virginia. And even in Mississippi and West Virginia, you can get an exemption. All you have to do is get an exemption from your medical doctor, the pediatrician, but some of them are not going to give it to you, because they do not get protected with malpractice insurance if they treat a child who's not immunized. So your pediatrician is not likely to give you the exemption. You may have to find somebody who practices naturopathic medicine, but who still is a licensed physician. You can also go to the County Board of Health and print out the exemption form. It's right there on the website. Sign it, date it, get it notarized, and turn it into the secretary, and life goes on. Or you can write your own letter. Get it turned into an affidavit, notarized, give it to the principal or the secretary, life goes on. There's children in Florida who's not immunized and they sit in public and charter school. You don't need shots in order, no interruptions right now, my brother. You don't need shots in order for your child to go to school. And y'all need to know that. Okay? Very important. I know you got shots. That's why you also get sick. In fact, my philosophy is that in the immunizations they give black folk, there's time-release diseases in it. That's right. You get diabetes at 15. Heart disease at 30. A cancer lump on your breast or your cervix or your prostate by 50. Time-release cancer. Time-release heart disease. Time-release strokes. There was an article I read in the paper not too long ago that said most black people die not from the disease, but from the medicine you take for it. Look at all the black folks on medicine in the community. Every other black person is on some sort of pharmaceutical drug. Your sons are on some sort of pharmaceutical drug. ADHD and conduct disorder and oppositional defiant. So they get Ritalin and Adderall and Concerta and Metadate and Cyclin and Risperdal and Paxil and Prozac. Have y'all heard about Risperdal? It's causing our boys to grow breasts. All over the news right now. There's a lawyer suing millions of dollars for the drug company that makes Risperdal. They're trying to find black parents. So if there's any parents in here whose son takes Risperdal, you might want to get in contact for the lawyers. Get your little stimulus package. Okay? Now, this is what I want to do. I want to read you the side effects. And the reason I want to read you the side effects is because I've been accused of exaggerating the side effects of medicine. They say, Dr. Umar, ain't nothing wrong with the medicines. The doctor said my son would be fine. Why are you scaring us good black parents up all around the country, acting like something bad going to happen to my child? Really? Well, let me read to you from white folks what happens when you give your child Ritalin. Maybe this will help you out. Y'all ready? And I want all my parents who got their sons on drugs to hear me well. By the way, you ain't got to be a psychologist to get this book. You know where I got this pill book from? The physician's desk reference to prescription medicine. You get it in the newspaper aisle at the supermarket. You know what this book costs? $8. And every one of you should have one. Not just for your son's ADHD medicine, but for the medicine they're giving you as well. For the medicine they give your grandma. Half your complications and health problems is coming directly from your medicine. Listen up. Ritalin side effects: nervousness, irritability, rash, itching, fever, hallucinations, convulsions, arthritis, appetite loss, nausea, dizziness, blurred vision, abnormal heart rhythm, headache, obsessive compulsive disorder, drowsiness, changes in blood pressure or pulse. Damn. It changes the blood pulse of the child. Chest pain, stomach pain, psychotic reaction, changes in blood components, baldness. So now your son will be walking around with a bald ass head at 10, Kojak, because your ass giving him pills so he can sit still long enough to be miseducated by middle class white females in Fort Lauderdale. Vomiting, agitation, uncontrollable twitching, convulsions followed by coma. Convulsions followed by coma. This is only Ritalin. And Ritalin is one of the most softer drugs. Convulsions followed by coma, hallucinations, confusion, delirium, sweating, flushing, headache, high fever, abnormal heart rate, high blood pressure, dryness of the mouth. Methylphenidate crosses into the fetal circulation and should not be taken during pregnancy, obviously. So brothers and sisters, let me give you one more. I want to give you Prozac. That's depression. And a lot of black women are taking Prozac to deal with the symptoms of your monthly. Black woman, you better stop taking antidepressants to deal with your menses and deal with it by changing your diet, because antidepressants wasn't designed to be helping you ease the pain of yours monthly, because all of these antidepressants have been linked to what, brothers and sisters? Brain, breast, and cervical cancer in black women. Brain, breast, and cervical cancer in black women. And this is what you're taking to ease the pain of your monthly cycle. Ladies, cut it out. And then some of y'all probably say, well, Dr. Johnson, are they allowed to give me a prescription For that? Yes, because in the United States of America, you can write a prescription to deal with something it wasn't even created for. Did y'all know that? I can't find that one right now, so we ain't going to go with it, but let me read you this. The symptoms of ADHD, because everybody think their children has it. This is the DSM-5. This is the book where we get all of our diagnoses from, okay? This is clinical psychology and clinical psychiatry. Don't confuse this book with special ed. This is not special ed. Special ed falls under the United States Department of Education. That's school psychology. This is mental illness. This is clinical psychology. Now, ADHD is in this book, but ADHD is not a special ed disorder. So how can they put your son in special ed for ADHD if it's in this book and is not a special ed disorder? Because one of the 13 special ed disorders, parents, is called other health impairment. And it says that if your child has an outside diagnosis, if you let the school know that your child has an outside diagnosis, they can then use the outside diagnosis, aka ADHD, from the community psychologist, and they can put him in special ed because of it. In other words, stop telling the school all of your business. Single mothers, why are you telling that teacher you're a single parent, working 3 jobs with 5 kids and no help from the father? I know why you're telling them, because you're like, I should be able to tell my son's teacher that I'm struggling a little bit, so take it easy on me. But you don't understand the school system. Do you know what you just did? You just gave them the weapons to crush you. Now they know you ain't got nobody helping you out. They're going to try to force that medicine. And if you don't medicate that boy, they're going to keep calling you up to pick him up early, suspending him, kick him out, come get him, because you told them you had no support. Even if the father is not in the house, I would not tell the school that. Where's his dad? He's out of town working right now. He'll be back. I'm serious, mothers. The worst thing you can do is let them know you're struggling. Because that's what they like to know, because they can force you to do things you don't want to do. And parents, please stop getting your children evaluated for ADHD if you don't plan on drugging them. Well, I just wanted to see if he had it. First of all, fool, there's no test for ADHD. Let me say this again. There is no test for, let me say it one more time. There's no test for ADHD. There's what are called screener questionnaires and assessments, which means we'll ask you a bunch of questions about your son, and based on your answers, we might make the diagnosis that is ADHD. But the test did not diagnose your son. We do. I need y'all to understand. Well, I want him to take the ADHD test. Ain't no such thing. The psychologist looks at these criteria and listens to you complaining and that white teacher complaining. It says, okay, well, the mom's complaining and the teacher's, and then you start seeing the side effects that I just talked about, and you stop giving him the medicine. But that's a problem, because you had already told the school he's on medicine, which is another thing I need to stop doing. Why would you tell the school your son is on psychiatric meds? That's the worst thing you can do, because once he stopped taking them, they're going to call Child Protective Services on you. And they're going to come to your house and demand that you put your child back on medication. And if you don't, they will take your children. And not just the one on medicine, they will take all of your children. So stop. You never get a child tested for ADHD, because it is a made-up, factitious Wall Street disorder. Well, you don't believe me? Let me read you the criteria. Fails to give close attention to detail. Has difficulty sustaining attention. Does not listen when spoken to. Does not follow through on instructions. Has difficulty organizing tasks. Avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort. What child do you know engages in sustained mental effort? Black, white, rich, or poor. Loses things necessary to get his work done. What child do you know that doesn't lose things necessary to get their work done? And then we have, is easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. Half the black folk in Fort Lauderdale are easily distracted by external stimuli. And then they got, is forgetful in daily activities. That's me all day. And then they got, taps and fidgets with his hands or his feet, the same thing the baby right there is doing. Since when did that become a damn disorder? And then we got leaves his seat when he's supposed to stay seated. And then we got runs or climbs when he's not supposed to. And then we got is unable to play quietly. What child have you ever seen in your life who plays quietly? And then we have is often on the go, driven by a motor. Ain't that every growing, developing child? And then we got blurts out answers without waiting his turn. Have you ever seen two black folks in an argument? And then it says, talks excessively. Every smart child I know has difficulty waiting his turn and interrupts other people when they talking. Are y'all serious right now? Fort Lauderdale, are you serious? I just read you the official diagnostic criteria for ADHD, which ain't nothing but regular childhood behavior. That's why half the boys in Fort Lauderdale on medicine right now. I'm willing, if I go into one of your public schools and go into one of them classes, half the boys on some kind of trouble because of this. And look who's on the back of the book. Our good friend Benjamin Rush, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, who's considered America's first psychiatrist. He was Dean of Medicine at Pennsylvania Hospital. He was a founding father. Why is he on the back of this book? Because he used to diagnose enslaved Africans with a disease called nigritude. He said black people had a mental illness that rendered our brains feeble and our skin dark. And he said the darker the skin, the more dumber the black person. And he told white folks not to rub up against black folks, because if you rub up against their skin, you too would catch nigritude. His face is still on the back of the book. And for those of you who don't believe it, when you go home tonight, get on the internet and Google nigritude. And then I want you to Google drapetomania, a disease that was given to runaway blacks. Running away from your master was called drapetomania. Wanting to be free meant you was sick. And you wonder why I'm on this campaign. You got to know the truth and you got to know the facts, brothers and sisters. Make sure if you didn't get it yet, get a copy of my book, Psychoacademic Holocaust. It's in the lobby, read it cover to cover. I also need everybody here to make sure you sign up for the Fort Lauderdale chapter of the National Independent Black Parent Association so we can bring change in the schools in your city. Make sure the sign-up sheet is at my table outside. There's 7 committees. We're going to have a homeschool committee. For those of you who are homeschooling your children or want to homeschool, we got to put you together and organize you. Just because you're homeschooling don't mean you're doing a good job. If you're homeschooling, how long is your school year going to be? Homeschool parent, are you full year? Are you year round? Are you going to follow the school year calendar? You need to know this. And then you have to have a curriculum map to make sure you get through all the instruction before the school year is over with. What are you going to teach in September? What are you going to teach in October? I don't care how good your curriculum is. If you can't pace yourself, the child won't learn. And then you got to have an assessment system. Who you want to bring into your house to test your children to make sure you know what the hell you doing. So we got to work together. And then we're going to have a special ed committee to do what? Investigate special ed in Fort Lauderdale. How many kids in special ed part-time? How many in full-time? How many get pulled out? How many in special ed for the learning disability, or autism, or mental retardation, or the emotional disturbance, or ADHD, or the speech and language impairment, or deafness, or blindness, or the traumatic brain injury, or the orthopedic impairment, or multiple disabilities? How many black kids in Fort Lauderdale are diagnosed as mentally gifted? And why don't we have more mentally gifted black children? And then we're going to have a finance committee to investigate the money. How are they spending the money in Fort Lauderdale schools? Who's getting the contracts? Who got the contracts to do the lights? The contracts to clean the bathroom? Who got the contract to do the summer programs? Then we're going to have a social committee to do what? Help all of our struggling mothers out there, our single moms and grandmoms and fathers doing the best they can. But we got to help them out. We can't blame the single moms for everything wrong in school. Do you realize that half the single moms in America are also dealing with a potentially fatal medical problem? She don't go to the school because that woman is waiting on a kidney transplant. She don't go to the school because she get the head beaten that night by his father. She don't go to school because she got heart disease. Don't blame her. Lift her up. Once upon a time, we would help out. 5 minutes, Queen, I got you. Do you remember when we was growing up? If something was wrong with one of our parents and they couldn't raise us, somebody on the block took us in the house. They didn't call the damn social worker. They didn't tell the police we got a homeless child in our neighborhood. They didn't go to the school complaining. They didn't look for money. They said, listen, I know you your mama's baby, but you all of our babies. And until she able to take care of you, we going to take care of you. And some of us grew up in somebody else's house and the white man never knew. What happened to that when we used to care? Now, we don't want to be bothered with nobody else's children. Black people got the highest adoption for waiting rate in the country. More black kids by percentage looking for a place to live, but they can't come to your house because you don't care about nobody but you and your children. We got to stop being selfish because of biting us in the behind. These kids on the street, all this violence in the neighborhood, this our fault. Stop trying to pass it off on somebody else. What happened to these children? You happened to these children. And then we're going to have a policy committee to change the rules in Fort Lauderdale that are negatively affecting our children. What do I mean? Your daughter goes to school on the west side of Fort Lauderdale, but you want her to school on the north side of Fort Lauderdale because the schools on the north side are better than the schools on the west side. Hypothetically, you went to the principal and said, can my baby go over there? The principal said, no. We don't allow kids to go to school outside their neighborhood. But is that the state of Florida law? Is that a state law? No. It is a local school district policy. A policy is not a law, parents. A policy is a local operating procedure. And the policy committee is going to find all of the local operating procedures that discriminate against black children and change them. Listen, if you're a lazy parent, you're no parent at all. If you don't go to school board meetings, you're not serious. So we got the special ed committee, the finance committee, the policy committee, the social committee, the homeschool committee. We also going to have the parent advocacy committee. When you sign up, if you're interested in helping me organize the chapter in Fort Lauderdale, put organizer in the comments section. If you don't live in Fort Lauderdale, you sign up anyway and put your city and your state, even if it's not Florida, because if we don't have a parent association being organized right now in your city, I'm going to contact you and I'm going to come to where you live and we're going to organize it. We must do this until we have the Fred Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. In closing, if you parents ever have a question about your child, anything at all, every Tuesday morning, I host a free black parent teleconference. And some of my white mothers of black children called me up the other day. They said, listen, I know you race first, but I have a black child, and my son is catching hell just like the rest of them. So I tell those white moms, if you're raising a black child, yes, you can call because it's for the sake of the child. We're not going on no date, but you can call and ask a question about the child. Okay? I want to give you all my phone number right now. So take out your cell or pen. I'm going to give you my number. This way you can text me directly for the Tuesday morning conference call. It's every Tuesday, 6 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. You can also text me for the Africa trip information. We took our first group trip to Africa last July. We're about to take our second. It's either going to be Ghana and one other West African country, or Ethiopia and Eritrea. I should have the information by the 1st of March. The trip is going to be about $4,000. Save your money, get your passport. Black man, if you got child support issues, pay it off or you ain't going no damn way. So listen, get your passport because they will not let you fly, all right? That's how that works. Phone number, 215-989-9858. Again, 215-989-9858. One more time for my special ed parents. 215-989-9858. Last thing, and then I'm going to say my ancestors' quote. Never let the school counselor counsel your children. Never let the school counselor counsel your children. Never let the school counselor counsel your children. Well, Dr. Umar, they're the counselor. That's what they're there for. No, they're there to get in your personal business and get all in your life, and the next thing you know, you are being brought up on charges by the Department of Human Services because your child went to school and said they smelled marijuana coming out the room or anything like that. Don't let those people counsel your child. First of all, they're not good at it, and second of all, they only want to get in your business and mess up your family. If your child needs counseling, pay for them yourself out your pocket. Find you somebody in private practice outside the school and never sign paperwork from the school giving them permission to talk to your child's doctor, counselor, or anybody else, because schools like to get in your business and they real slick because the first day of school they send you a piece of paper saying sign this give us permission to do everything, and you didn't read it, and the next thing you know they going behind your back talking to doctors and counselors and getting all in your business and using that as leverage to break up your family or force you to do what they want you to do. Be smart. We're working on a full-color magazine called the Unapologetically African Magazine. I invite all of you to submit an article. It's coming out this summer. It's going to be the Black Revolutionary Community's version of the Source magazine. If you would like to submit an article, it can be no more than 1,000 words. It can be on anything relevant to us. It can be on love, family, sisterhood, white supremacy, police brutality. You might want to do some spoken word, some poetry, a piece of art, a book review, a movie review, anything that's relevant. Sisters who do natural hair, you might want to do some tips, okay, on how to keep your hair sharp. Brothers, you might know some tips on how to, handle your child support. Whatever you got to do. 1,000 words, send in a picture with it, and email that to Umar the Psychologist at yahoo.com. UMARTHE Psychologist at yahoo.com. In conclusion, my ancestor Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess the favor of freedom and deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean, but they're scared to deal with the awful roar of its waters. He said this struggle we have might be moral or it might be physical, or it might be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. He said, for 20 years I prayed on my knees to God for freedom, but the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and started praying with my feet. He said, if we want to be free, then we ourselves must strike the first blow. And this we may have to do with blood, or we may have to do with blows, or we may have to do with both, but we must pay. He said, a man may not get everything you pay for in this world, but you must certainly pay for everything that you get. He said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. The first of my ancestors brought to these shores, his name was Bailey. A black man brought to Talbot County, Eastern Shore, Maryland in 1701. Grandfather Bailey married Grandma Selah, for which my youngest baby is named. And together, Grandpa Bailey and Grandma Selah had Grandma Jenny. And in 1745, Grandma Jenny gave birth to Grandma Betsy. Grandma Betsy was a slave woman, but she married a free black man named Isaac. They had 12 children. One of their daughters was named Young Betsy, and another one was named Harriet. Harriet was raped by the slave master who owned my family, an Irishman named Aaron Anthony. As a result of that rape, she gave birth to the greatest black man to ever walk on American soil. His name was Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. At the age of 20, Uncle Fred escaped from slavery to freedom. He dropped the family name Bailey and picked up Douglas to evade capture under the fugitive slave law. Well, his little brother Stephen was born the next year, in 1819. They were brothers because the slave master was their daddy, but they was cousins because their mothers were sisters. Stephen was my great-great-great-grandfather. He wasn't as fortunate as Frederick to escape from slavery to freedom. He remained a slave in Maryland. He married a black woman who was also enslaved, Grandma Caroline Wilson, who didn't learn how to read until 1909, the year the NAACP was founded. Their firstborn son, 1841, was George Washington Bailey, my great-great-great-grandfather, who went on to become the first black public school teacher in Talbot County, Maryland. When the Civil War started, my two grandfathers, father and son, Stephen and George, fought side by side in the United States Colored Troops of Maryland. Uncle Fred didn't fight, but he sent two of his sons, Lewis and Charles, my cousins. They went north. They fought in the Boston, Massachusetts 54th Colored Regiment, from where we get the movie Glory. After the Civil War, Grandpa George married Annie Wayman. Annie Wayman was the niece of Bishop Alexander Wayman. the 7th Bishop in Richard Island's African Methodist Episcopal Church. They had a daughter named Caroline, who moved from Maryland to Philadelphia with the death of her parents to be raised by an older sister. Caroline gave birth to a daughter named Vivian. Grandma Vivian married a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant, Grandpa Cicero Noel. They had a daughter by the name of Ida. Ida married James Johnson. And they had a son named Jamal Johnson. And Jamal married Barbara. And on August 21st, 1974, the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, the Nat Turner Revolution, the George Jackson Revolution, and the Fred Douglass Anti-Slavery Convention, Dr. Umar Johnson was born in North Philadelphia. I say all that to say this: religion is fine, but teach our kids where they come from. We come from God through our ancestors. We go back to God through our ancestors. And let me say this right here. I study Ifa, the spiritual system of the Yoruba out of Nigeria. This year, according to the divination that was done, brothers and sisters, the two ruling powers, the two ruling divine powers of 2015, is an Orisha by the name of Oya and an Orisha by the name of Shango. These two Orisha are warrior Orishas. What it means is this is going to be a year of turbulent change. There's going to be drama, there's going to be death, there's going to be catastrophe. Not in a bad sense, though, brothers and sisters. In a good sense. Because righteousness must sweep away the wicked in order for righteousness to be reborn. You know, y'all follow with me? So a lot of stuff is going to have to change. Don't look at it in a bad sense. Divine destruction must wipe away evil for righteousness to be born. But I'm saying that to say that on this 150th year of our freedom, so-called, we better buckle down. Because I think the ancestors coming. And they're coming to help us push our way through this mess. You must not give in to false belief that black folk cannot win. We can, we shall, and we will. One day, a long time ago, the British were slaves to the Germans. Look at them now. One day, a long time ago, the Chinese were the laughing stock of the world. Look at them now. One day, a long time ago, the East Indians got no respect. Look at them now. Most of the great nations on the earth were once down on their knees. If it was for them, so it can be for us. I give you the analogy of the George Washington Carver, a black man born into slavery, castrated by the white folks who raised him because they thought he would have sex with their daughters. Some of y'all don't know this, but George Washington Carver never married and never had children because he was castrated by the white family who raised him, because he lived in a house with their daughter and they was afraid because of racial stereotype that he would take advantage. But that black man, having no ability to feel the pleasures of a woman or bring forth a child, never cried, never complained, went to Tuskegee, Alabama, worked for Booker T. Washington, and when he got to Tuskegee, he didn't even have an office, he didn't have a lab, he didn't have an apartment, he didn't cry. He went to the trash dump of the students of Tuskegee. And if you don't believe me, read Up From Slavery, because it's in there. And that black man who was castrated, who was the greatest scientist America ever had, went to the garbage and took out plastic, took out aluminum, took out tin, took out metal, took out wood from the refuse of college students, gave you 300 products from the peanut. From the refuge of college students, 500 products from the soybean. From the refuge, the waste and dirt of college kids, over 200 products from the sweet potato. I'll be damned if we sit here looking at our chops thinking we can't win. Don't you ever let nobody tell you. Because one day we coming up out of this, and we coming up out of it soon. And don't let no religion, no religious leader tell you you got to die to get to heaven. The white man got his heaven now. Why can't we have ours? The Chinese got his heaven now. Why can't we have ours? The Arab got his heaven now. Why can't we have ours? Any religion that tells me I got to die in order to have heaven is a religion I don't need. I want it here. I want it now. I want it for our children. Up, 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 you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. Thank you, black family.